Welcome, everybody, to the ALF Operations Podcast, where we talk compliance, operation, and whatever else is going on in the assisted living world. Presented by ALF Boss.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the ALF Boss Podcast. This is Pascal Bergeron, your host, and I'm here with Jack Waldroup, which he does wear many hats, so I'm going to let him introduce himself. Go ahead, Jack. Tell us about yourself a little bit there.
Well, thanks for inviting me. So I am the Area Director of Operations for the Southeast and Central regions for Century Park Associates. I have a main campus, which is in Port St. Lucie, so Harbor Place at Port St. Lucie. It's assisted living and independent living, but then I help with the other buildings in the region for, like I said, Southeast and Central as well. So anywhere from Pennsylvania to Kansas, all the way down to Fort Lauderdale.
Wow, that sounds like a fun job all over the country there.
I do. I'm getting ready to go to Pennsylvania in 2 weeks, so I'm excited. Wow,
I'm jealous. The weather's probably beautiful up there. It's probably cooler for sure, right?
Leaf changes, colors. Yeah, that should be good.
Nice. So let's stick with Florida for right now. The campus in Port St. Lucie, that's 257 units?
It is. So I have an assisted living, and that's 3 stories, and an independent living that's 3 stories. So that's roughly 109 for the assisted living, and then the rest is independent living apartments.
Wow. So that's definitely keeping you busy, that's for sure. Wow.
It does keep us busy for sure.
So is that a bird?
I'm not sure.
No, I thought we had a bird in there. Let's talk about the bird. I guess not.
Right.
So the ALF side, I mean, is it like higher end? Is it higher functioning? Tell me a little bit about it.
We have a range, actually. I have some that are independent, that are just there so that as they continue on in their journey of life, that they don't have to make another move. And then I have some that are more higher level of care. So it just depends, honestly, on day to day and month to month as to what that range is going to look like. As we do assessments and we bring people in, we are seeing some uptake in residents and those coming in and the inquiries that are coming in. So we are finding that everybody's starting to be more comfortable after COVID with moving their loved ones. They're going to visit them, and they're seeing that loved ones need a little bit more care since they've been cooped up in their homes by themselves. And so we, like I said, that uptake is really starting to show. But we have a wide variety from independent that live in the assisted living all the way up to what we would call level 3s, which is someone that needs quite a bit of assistance.
So, I mean, you look like a young gentleman, like myself there. So how in the heck did you get started in this industry? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So most of my career actually was in doctor's offices, and I was working in a hospital running the emergency department and the admissions portion. And a friend of mine that was the case manager said, you really have a way with elderly population, and why don't you look and come work with me at the assisted living that I work at? And I was like, I don't know that I want to move out of doctor's offices in the hospital. That's what I was used to. And so I went and interviewed. I actually started in the industry as a business office director. Then after about 3 years of that, decided to, and that was in Alabama at the time, to get my assisted living certification. I went and got my licensure for administration in Alabama and have kept going since then. So I've been an independent living director. I've had anywhere from 18-bed unit building all the way up to this one, which is 257. So I've had a wide variety.
Kind of from a doctor's office kind of transition, and I always tell people once you get sucked in, this industry you're in.
You do. My undergrad is actually in psychology with an emphasis in special needs children. And so it's kind of a full gamut, but I feel like I'm still working with special needs children at times, because everybody makes that turn back to needing a little bit more assistance and needing guidance and things of that nature. So I went back and got my MBA with an emphasis in healthcare management. And so that I could stay where I am, and I just use both of them on a daily basis. It's great.
So let's talk operations a little bit, because you did throw out, the different states and stuff like that. So, I do work in some of the other states as well. Talk to everybody about the difference in regulations compared to Florida. Let's talk about that a little bit, because I mean, most of these states, I mean, it's like half the regulations what Florida has. A few of them.
So I've worked in some lenient states. Texas, it's pretty lenient. And then Florida, which is somewhat stringent, and then Alabama is even more stringent than what Florida is. So I like it. Florida is actually kind of an in-between to me from what I'm used to. I mean, in Alabama, your assisted living resident has to be able to tell you that the medications that they take, when they take it, why they take it, all of those sorts of things. Whereas, as you know, anywhere else, you don't have to have that. Those residents, a lot of times in Florida or in Texas that I would think would be a memory care resident, are very much appropriate in the assisted living because of where I came from. They had to be able to tell you what their medications were. And so coming to states where you don't have to do that, that was an eye opener for me, of all the residents that we lost just because they couldn't tell me what their medication was. And so having that ability to have residents and truly have a continuing care that you can do from one upwards into moving on to skilled nursing, I didn't have that ability in some of the more stringent states. So yes, we have some guidance with ACA and those regulations that we have to follow. But I guess from my point of view, coming from somewhere that was more stringent, I don't feel as closed in as I did in Alabama. And so that has been difficult to kind of wrap my head around because I'm so used to seeing very independent residents in an assisted living. And with our regulations in Florida, they don't have to be that independent. And so that's been difficult for me. But honestly, having
all the people complaining in the group every single day about ACA, it can get worse. Is that what you're saying? It could be worse?
It could very much be worse.
And I know that, and I try to explain that to some of them, but
it could be a lot worse. I mean, for instance, we have buildings in Colorado right now that are still mandating testing for associates, residents, everybody. ACA is not mandating that at this point. Could very well be worse.
So, and the job that you perform there, the position, what's a typical day look like for you?
Ooh, sometimes crazy.
Welcome to the ALF world, right?
Exactly. So I, as the campus director or the executive director, hold and wear many hats. Besides my hat as the area director of operations and helping other buildings and traveling to them, I still obviously have to maintain my campus as well. I do have an assistant executive director, which is very helpful. She is my right arm for sure. But my daily, from stand up in the morning where we talk about move-ins and move-outs and levels of care and what everybody's doing for the day, from 9 o'clock in the morning, typically to the time that I go home, 5:30. Yes, I may be sitting at my desk, but there's a lot going on while I'm sitting at that desk. We all now are faced with Zoom calls that happen on a regular basis, even before moving into this new role that I have with area director of operations. We still had a bunch. We couldn't do those in person for a year and a half. And so Zoom calls were the only option that we had, which takes us back into our office. Trying to minimize the amount of, because I have two buildings, my assisted living is a building, and then we're joined by a portico, then we have our independent living, minimizing the number of people that were going into the assisted living. And so my assistant ED stays over in the assisted living building so that we're limiting the number of staff that have that chance to go in and run the risk of infecting residents and things of that nature. So my daily life now looks so different than what it did pre-COVID, and we all know that. But from lease signings to family conversations to town hall meetings, every day comes with a new challenge, and we all know that. And I think that's part of the reason why I do enjoy what I do. There's pros and cons all the time. Residents are going to be the greatest thing ever, but at the same time, they can be a thorn in your side, because you have those ones that are sweet as can be today, but tomorrow they have got something they want to complain about, and it's going to be really harsh. But You know, my day
the ALF world, you know, it's the ALF world.
you do. And so that's part of the, I love my residents. You know, I actually lost both sets of grandparents before I graduated from high school. My mother's parents had passed away before I was a year old. My grandmother on my dad's side passed away my junior year in high school. So I never really had that older experience with having a grandparent. And so I say all the time that I now have a campus full of grandparents. And that's why I do what I do. You know, so many times we forget what it's like to have a grandparent. And it's our parent, and we think that, oh, well, they can be able to take care of themselves. And why does that happen to do it that way? And so many times it takes someone to just step back and say, wait, I think what they're trying to say is this.
Right. Yeah.
A prime example was I did a tour today, and the prospect that was here it was independent living, but her friend said something, and I literally just reworded what her friend said. And of course, all of a sudden it made perfect sense, and I need to do it that way. But her friend had just said the exact same thing. So, you know, it is what it is, and that's how we handle it. And that's why we do what we do. And it's to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the decisions they make and where they are, and that their loved ones are being taken care of.
Now, you did mention in your thing about staff. Let's talk about staff. Is that a problem right now?
Staffing, I think staffing, no matter where you are right now, is going to be difficult. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of those unemployment benefits that are out there. And so there are, I mean, you've seen it, Wendy's has sign outs that say, please bear with us because we are the staff that showed up today, you know? And so everybody has that problem. We're lucky. We are able to contract with outside agency to help us if we were to have a lack of staffing. Not everybody has that ability. You know, staffing.
When you say, I'll say staffing, I just think, ouch.
It is. You're right.
Financially,
I will tell you, I would much rather pay overtime to someone than pay an outside agency to come in and help. But there are times where you don't have that option because
you don't have that option. Oh, exactly. And the pain in the butt with that too, with those is every time they send you somebody, it's somebody new you have to train, and they're not there for long. And then before you know it, before this person's starting to get the hang of it, it's a new person, and it's just
exactly. That's exactly right.
Everybody's bearing right now. You know, the lower populated areas are hurting even more because there's even less, you know,
less ability to cover it.
Work pool available. I feel like this past couple weeks it has gotten a little better. I think from the pulse that I'm getting from, you know, other communities, it has improved a little bit. You know, so. And cross our fingers, and you know, it's the whole country's going through it. It's just tough. You know, everybody's looking for tricks and ways to lure new staff. It's just there's people not out there, and
they are. You're right. And we are working in an industry that got hit very hard with COVID, and so people are scared. They're scared.
That's another thing. You know, we were these facilities were on the news every day because, of course, we're always a hot topic, you know, that COVID this, in long-term care facilities. And, you know, we had staff that quit during the pandemic because they were scared. And personally, I don't blame them. It was a scary time. We were all scared last year. It was, you know, so it's.
And I think you know, it's when it comes to like the vaccine now, it's a wide variety of, do we mandate it? Do we not mandate it? What do we do for those staff that don't want to do it if we don't mandate it? We're very lucky. Our company believes in choice. And so ours was not mandated. We had the right to choose whether we wanted to do the vaccine or if we choose to be tested weekly. So we gave that choice. Some in our industry are not that lucky. You know, they mandated that their staff get the vaccine. And no matter how you look at it, that has played a toll on staffing as well.
I believe so, because I mean, I've seen both sides of the fence. Some people are, we're mandating it. There's no ifs and buts about it. Some people are more lenient. I'm like, you know, like your company being more lenient with it. But for the companies who are mandating it, I'm curious to see the statistics as far as if they lost staff and if it's, you know, if it's right now it's just not time to be picky. I think it's when you do things like that, I feel like it makes it a little. You limit the people that might be applying for the positions.
Right.
So
You do.
at the same time, we have the residents to protect. It's a tough call. But the residents for the most part are all vaccinated in most all the facilities. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if the state or ACA might put something that residents need to be vaccinated or something eventually, forcing either staff or residents. Though I've heard chatter about it. We'll see how that goes.
And we're very lucky as a company, as Century Park. We're 95% vaccinated for our residents, and so we're very lucky in that most of our families decided that yes, we are going to do the vaccine. And so I think that has allowed us to be a little bit less stringent when it comes to our staff and that requirement, because of the overall number of vaccinated that we do have with staff as well as residents.
Gotcha. So let me ask you, what's the favorite part of your job?
I think the favorite part of my job would be families. Prime example would be
the good ones, right?
You're always going to have both.
No, I know. I'm just messing with you.
Even the ones that are a pain, at some point you're going to get a laugh and a smile out of them, and you've done your job. But a prime example for me, several months ago now, we had an unexpected death in our independent living. And it was a husband and wife. They have no local family. They retired here. It was about 10 o'clock at night. I came back up to the building. I sat with her, waiting on the funeral home, talking with the family. And the next day when they flew in, just the overall feeling of joy that they had, that their mother was not left alone to deal with all of this. And just how appreciative they were of the staff and myself for staying with her, refusing to let her be alone, things that they would have done. And that's exactly how they worded it. We truly felt like we had a family member sitting with mom all night long.
That's
and
awesome.
that is what makes me get out of bed every morning and come do my job, is when families understand that we are a family. Yes, your loved one lives with us, but we're not here to collect a paycheck. I harp on that when I do interviews and when I do my staff meetings. If you're here to collect a paycheck, then I don't need you here. You are here to love on these residents and take care of them. And that's hard to do if all you're here for is to get paid.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And so that has to be the best thing for me, is when a family member says, you are truly our family with us. I have pictures of past residents from old buildings in my office that I am still close with their families, and some of them have long passed away, but their family members still reach out to me to say, hey, I just wanted to check on you because you're still family.
So the follow-up question, of course, is what's the worst part of your job?
Families? No. No.
Compliance, maybe?
Yeah, it is. Compliance.
The
paperwork. But that, honestly, that's part of life when you're in the industry. No matter what it is, you've got some type of compliance that you have to deal with.
Right.
But it does make it more difficult being in this industry, because you have to deal with what ACA tells you is mandated things, and then dealing with a family that doesn't quite understand that you cannot make their loved one come out of their room if they don't want to come out of their room, and those sorts of things. So
that tug of war, the family do this, but no, the regulation says I can't do that,
Exactly. And we want to maintain independence, but the family wants you to do everything for them, but that's not how this works. And, things like that. And that's the part that's difficult. And yes, I worry about census, because that's also part of the industry. Everybody's worried about census. But at the same time, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, and I am running my building and I'm doing my compliance, then my building census will continue to grow and be what it needs to be, because we look like we are supposed to be doing what we do. And so we don't have to worry about that problem.
All right. So let's say somebody wanted to get into the industry, into management, do you have maybe some advice maybe to give them if they want to get started out, what the.
So I do. It kind of depends on the path you want to take, to be honest. I'm very operational. And so starting out in the business office or made that was a smart transition for me because I could move into the operational part. But if you're someone that's more into care, you can still do what I do from a care side. A lot of assisted living directors are nurses. They started out as a caregiver, they worked their way up to a med tech, they've then moved on to being a nurse and then on to an administrator. I think nurses make great administrators, sometimes a little bit more focused on care than operations, but they do make great administrators. Mm-hmm. So my assistant executive director started out as a caregiver and has worked her way up and gotten her licensure and is assistant executive director. That's great. I think it's fabulous when someone can work through it. They have more passion about what they're doing than just coming in and moving into a role.
Yeah, it's definitely, I believe, something that you learn with time and from experiences. You can take the core training, okay, you're going to get familiarized with the regs, but does not prepare you for the things that you learn on a day-to-day. I always tell people there's no day is the same. You get new right. Just when you think you've seen it all, something new pops up. It's just, it's just the way
right.
it is.
Very true. Very true. And like I said, and especially operating in different states, as you move up in your role and you're dealing with different states and different regulations and things are always going to come up. Typically, it's the same, just the regulation may be different, but the same problems exist no matter where you go. It's across.
And it's I do compliance audits for all the different facilities and large, small, fancy, not fancy. It's like at the end of the day, it's like they're all the same thing. Exactly. The care. It's like the resident, same problem, same, just different, luxury levels or whatnot. But it's the same thing. It's the same. And like I said, if you go to state, it's the same thing as well. It's just it's the industry, and so that's why I like when everybody kind of talks to each other as administrators and share everybody shares their their experience and everything. They're like. Everybody relates all of a sudden. It's like they're best buddies. They might not know each other, but they get to talking at a bar or whatever about living.
I tell like families and employers the same thing. All as assisted livings do the exact same thing.
Correct.
You have to find the one that fits the best for you, your personality and the things that you want to do in life, because we all are going to provide the same care. We're regulated to provide that same thing.
And I tell people, if everybody, we all sit here and we write on a piece of paper, make me a brochure of your services. Everybody's going to pretty much write the same services on there.
Exactly. Yep.
It's just like you have different hotel levels, you have different facility levels, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing pretty much.
The bottom line is the same. Yep.
Correct. Yeah. Just some operate a little bit better, and that comes from some have more experience and they've learned from mistakes and they have better systems to address those mistakes. Some just haven't learned yet, and unfortunately, there's not a box they can just open up and this is how you run it. You know what I mean? So.
And some people are more suited, and families are more comfortable with a smaller company. And then there are some that want that bigger company that are running the ALFs because they've dealt with a lot more, or have a variety of ways to serve. So.
Yeah, and more amenities as well. There's always bigger facility, more staff, things like that. Sure. But at the same time, little ones have more one-on-one care. So it all depends. It's
all depends on what the family wants.
Correct.
Yep.
Well, Jack, you've been amazing. Been one of my best guests so far. So
thank you. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
In closing, if you want to give a shout out to your facility, you're more than welcome.
Sure. Come visit us, Harbor Place at Port St. Lucie, independent and assisted living, or even look at centurypa.com, and look at all of our campuses all over the country.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Jack. Thank you so much.
Thank you.